other double standards, hypocrisy on war, and so we show more double standards on that. So, do they plan on replacing the military with some hypothetical machine, robotical army or something like that, and also with drones? So they have a hypocrisy, so they want to say we couldn't invade into Iraq, but then let's talk about maybe going into Syria. Now, in my opinion, now this is what I believe. I was raised in the military, and my perspective on the position of Iraq and Afghanistan were by military design. So the Democrat way is to, even though if it kills the military or more servicemen, despite all efforts to do the right thing, they're going to push their agenda and they're going to push the military around. So they would rather have you talking about or thinking about, oh, should we maybe invade Syria now? So not cause a or help a genocidal type of third world war or something. But it outpositions our military, in my opinion, to where they're at a disadvantage opposed from the propaganda against all our good efforts and intentions as a country to do what we have to do as a country. We're placated to or however you say that, fancy words, blah blah blah, pro, pro, propaganded to by the enemy, probably in all different kinds of directions, but the ones that are the terrorists, like the ones in 9/11 that did that terrorist act that day in particular. We have them propaganda now that, and been for a long time, that Bush is a warmonger. Oh, Dick Cheney, he made his uh, made his old company a bunch of money, a bunch of shares for their shareholders, made a lot of money off of Dick Cheney and the Bushes going to war over there from their old companies and all this and that. So instead of telling the truth that it's necessary for our military to do that, so that whatever they think is the reason, the real reason or the truth, that would be truthful propaganda. If you were to put out a poster and say USA, go USA, it would be a bit of truth to propaganda, not a falsehood like what the Nazis and other people in history have used for propaganda to lie to people to convince them to do things that are utterly ignorant, completely ignorant. So the gullibility is there, and you can only point that out continually. But if now they pull our troops out of Iraq, here's the kicker: sending them our troops back and sending them right into Libya will be like cutting our military's head right off, in my opinion. As far as military strategy or whatever, I'd be like, oh my gosh, if the military would even follow that direction, and if the Republicans would even let the atrocious administration up there on Capitol Hill get away with that, when that is completely biased political BS that's just stupid, the wrong thing to do, and they're going to do it anyways to try and prove a point, and it's utterly ridiculous and is completely asinine. It's the wrong thing to do, and it's asking to cut our military's head right off. So why did they pull us out of Iraq? Well, now I see as far as the budget strategy and that and all this other stuff go, it's another way to waste $4 trillion. It costs $4 trillion to set up and go into Iraq, and all of the military, the personnel, the people that have died along the way, to have to do that all over again. except this time have them with our own military equipment and a lot of other stuff given to them, which I believe the terrorists and the enemy will lose anyways. I just so wholeheartedly believe that. But even how ridiculous or how beaten down America and Israel and all of our allies end up looking, I still think the good will be victorious and will win and will defeat evil. And that's plain and simple what it is, good versus evil. But the hypocrisy anyway, so they pull us out of Iraq and they say that's just ridiculous. Oh, but can we go into Syria? That's another one. But I just wanted to point out that besides like him also saying, oh well, now that we have a Democrat in there, we can go to war now. We can go ahead and go to war since we got the Democrat in there. And we couldn't do it when we had a Republican that actually listens to their generals and strategizes and does things in the name of the good old USA. We have this double standard hypocrisy where they say that's unnecessary, don't get involved. And here's what I really am trying to get to. My point is, but let's get involved and bring all these refugees over here. You know, it's so important that because it's un-American and it's, about American values, and about American, um, morals and stuff that we take these guys in. You know, we're not morally obligated to go and finish a war, or go start a war in the name of democracy to help people establish a type of democracy, crying out loud, because we're not going to be fighting for eternity over tyranny and freedom. You know, people over here like smacking their head like, why are you going against what we're talking about? People's freedoms and people's rights, people fighting for their rights and their freedoms, and then act like you're doing all this thing for the world, and the efforts that you put forward is just, you have to do it because it's morally ethnic. I mean, it's about ethics. I mean, for goodness sakes. So I'm just saying the hypocrisy. They say we can't get involved, but then the double standards, we we have to get involved now, seeing as how, however it happened, there's a bunch of refugees out here. I say, I say no. I say knock it off. I say don't take the refugees. Actually, send them back and make them go someplace else and tell them to leave it alone. Since we had this cockamamie political push and drive by this knucklehead in the White House here, I say we tell them no, we're not getting involved. By them pulling us out of Iraq, that's an indication of saying that, hey man, we can't help you anymore. We don't want to get involved. But then yet, all of a sudden, all kinds of efforts are made to now suddenly care and get involved because it's a humanitarian crisis or thing. I say it's not our agenda, it's not our problem. Leave it alone and don't let them come here and make them leave because it's double standard hypocrisy. Leave it alone. Either let us finish our wars, let us fully engage the enemy without telling them what we're doing and our strategies and what we're planning and how we're going to whip their ass, and stop telling them from the presidency, from the White House position, and then whatever is supposed to be the head of the country is actually the head of ISIS, for crying out Obama's sakes, right? So I say, don't get involved. Don't do this humanitarian thing at all. Tell the Democrats no on any of it. Tell them to go shove it and stick it. And either that or let us finish our thing like we're supposed to when we spread democracy. If they're going to go to war, have them go to war for the right causes and the right things. And whenever it's said and done, people will have freedom and democracy, not tyranny. So, more hypocrisy there with them trying to help, you know, our tyrannical enemies, and people with tyrannical notions or believe that way are gullible enough to follow something, even though the point after point after point, all of the people that were killed and whatever else, terrible, horrible atrocities happen from tyranny and tyrants and dictators. You still want to help them out, you know, in a push with this Obama guy to try to make to be taking away democracy in America. He has helped uh, take away more democracy globally and internationally than he has been able to here. Not, I don't think equally as far as taking our rights away. I think as he's been trying to demean and undermine our constitutional rights and our citizens' freedoms as individuals. I think that we've all underestimated the expressiveness or the effect that it's had on the world as a whole. So it's a very terrible thing. So we must keep democracy in our minds and stuff. And if politicians want to go politicking and say something, do something helpful for the economy, get back at those people who abused tax cuts, or honored them if they used those tax cuts for 10 years like they were supposed to, and go after anybody who used the system and um, part of our system to be corrupt and do things that made them a lot of money without actually with a sound legal plan. If they did it and they became a billionaire and nobody committed suicide over it, kudos to those people. But if they ended up doing it and it was just a wasteful thing, like what happened to the housing market, I would have narrowed in on that if I was your public representative and you were my constituents. I would have took a look at that the best that I could if I had access to lawyers and agencies and other things like that, the IRS even, or whatever. You still wanted to keep the IRS there. You know, I'm fully against the IRS even existing, but still, I would go after people who abused that and actually had anything to do with people losing their lives or their homes, giving loans to people who couldn't qualify for the loans in particular. I mean, it's one thing to help people out, and then it's another totally different thing to be greedy and to cash in on people's lives. So, be the difference between somebody making money off of greed or somebody playing a sport or something and becoming wealthy. It's completely different. They didn't earn it the instant fame or the whatever um, amount of money, honestly. So, it's just more food for thoughts and being um, as straightforward with you as I possibly can.